Hello and welcome to Not Awful Data with Dr. Jess Hartnett, the podcast dedicated to helping you spruce up your stats teaching by giving you some fun, insightful data sets that you can use in your psychological statistics classes and beyond. Hey, this is Jess Hartnett, and this is my podcast, Not Awful Data. And today I'm going to kind of break the model and actually share psychology data that you could use in a psychological stats class or personality psych class. This data comes from the research article, Divided We Stand, Three Psychological Regions of the United States and Their Political, Economic, Social, and Health Correlates. That's from the Personality Processes and Individual Differences, authors Renfro, Gosling, Jokela, Stillwell, Kozinski, and Potter. Along with this and the information for this podcast, there was a pretty good write-up, a SciComm example in Time magazine called America's Mood Map, an interactive guide to the United States of Attitude by Chris Wilson and Jeffrey Kluger. So how do I use this in class? I start with the Time magazine piece because what this article and research did was gather up Big Five Neo. So again, for real psychology for the first time ever, right? And they figured out the extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, and openness to experience for the continental United States plus Washington, D.C. So they gathered enormous, huge data sets that had data divided by state. And they provide a score, as you would imagine, from 0 to 100 for each state's average on each facet of the Big Five. So if you go to the Time magazine piece, they have a nice little color-coded example where they show that there's sort of like basic regions of the United States, with the Western United States being relaxed and creative, the Midwest being friendly and conventional, and the Northeast being temperamental and uninhibited. The Southeast is also friendly and conventional. And then Texas randomly is temperamental and uninhibited, as is Ohio. So what to do with this data? If you go to the Time magazine website, there's a little button above the map I just described that says take the test, and your student can take the short form 10-item version of the NEO. And then they'll be matched with a state that matches with their personality. I usually get a Kentucky, where I'm low-key friendly and conventional. So I always like a little interactive piece within a class. Sometimes I even have that as like interactive like discussion points for that day of class. That's another blogcast entirely, but I don't really take attendance. I have students interact and upload their work in Blackboard. Anyway, so they tell me what state they are, and then I give them the data. I give them the data that's featured. More people should do this. It's just featured black and white on the back of that research article, Renfro et al. I also made the data into a table, and so I could run, here's how you use it in class, ANOVAs on the Big Five data. I included the regions of the United States. If you go to the original blog post about this, that data is available in JASP, SPSS, Excel, and .csv format. And what do you do with that data then? It's really actually pretty great pedagogically because you can run a bunch of ANOVAs, right? And you can start out with your baby statisticians and you can run an ANOVA on any one of the five of the Big Five, right? And you can use region of the United States as your factor with levels. Let's see if I have the data in front of me. I believe my levels are Northeast, West, Midwest, and Southeast. I think that's how I divided up the data. And then you can run ANOVAs to your heart content to see how different states, different regions of the United States vie and argue and are different based on different scales of the Big Five. For example, I'm going to run agreeableness real quickly in front of myself here on my computer. And what do we see? There's statistically significant differences in agreeableness amongst the regions of the United States, such that the West is significantly different from the Midwest. So the Midwest is 54.608, which is pretty average on agreeableness. But who is not high in agreeableness? The West. The West has a 42. And again, this really gets into post hocs. It gets into an ANOVA with one factor with 4 levels. And it's psych research, but it's not like you have to spend a ton of time discussing the theory. Sometimes I feel like if you get to an example that's too psyche, it's like a double-barreled example in that the student needs to remember the stats and the theory. But I think the NEO, Ocean, Big Five, whatever you call it, is fairly straightforward, and your students have probably heard about it before if they had to take intro. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in.
Want more Not Awful Data? Well, good news. Jess Hartnett is authoring a stats book. Coming this December, Psychological Statistics for Everyone is chock full of fun, real-world examples like the one you just heard. You can order your instructor exam copy at siegel.wwnorton.com/psych sessions not awful data. That's all lowercase, all one word.